Good morning, students. Welcome back to Metric Hub, the YouTube channel that provides from grade 8 up till grade 12 high school work. We are proud to have you back to the channel. And today we'll be focusing on economic management and science, grade 8, term 3 work, as we are about to approach term 3 after the holidays. We would like to focus on the work at hand. If you look on the screen, you can see that we'll be focusing on forms of ownership. Yes, forms of ownership. And without wasting any time, let's quickly get into it. And the first part will be defining of entrepreneurship. The definition of entrepreneurship. What is entrepreneurship? What does it mean? And later on, we'll be discussing what it can or how it can impact our lives or our daily routines. So, to put it in a slightly manner for you guys, as we define entrepreneurship, we'll start there. So, forgive me for that. We'll start there, yes. So entrepreneurship is the process of identifying. So what does it mean to identify? Is to showcase, to show something. So it's the process of identifying a need or opportunity in the market. Okay. Let's first stop it right there and discuss the first part of what entrepreneurship is the process. So it means it's something that is ongoing. It's a process of identifying. So a process of ongoing where we need to see or identify or showcase some things. So what are we seeing or what are we finding within this process? A need. Remember, back in grade 5, 4, they defined to you, or they rather gave you a definition between a need and a want, right? So a need is basically something that we cannot live without, right? So entrepreneurship is the process of identifying a need, I can say. So we identify a need or an opportunity, So in the market. So in this case, maybe let's say you are living in a rural area and there is no water. So how do you then, within the process, identify? You can see the need for water within that environment. That becomes an entrepreneurial skill to identify that need, that people do not have water. And then with that need, it becomes an opportunity for you to be within the market, because now you can see that nobody is providing water. Now, do you understand the whole thing? Entrepreneurship is just finding ways to help people, then turn that into an opportunity and be within the market, right? And then as we further move along, and they say identifying a need and a want or opportunity in the market and taking the initiative, taking the first step to start a business, or project. Okay, we'll stop it right there. Let's further explain the second part of what entrepreneurship is. So taking the initiative, so taking the first step, telling yourself that because now I've identified the need or the opportunity within the market, now I am going to take this first step, initiate to start something, right? A business or a project in order to satisfy that need. So which need? The first one that you identified. Remember, you identified a need. Now you need to satisfy it. How do you satisfy it? It's by providing a service or a product to people. And then you end up making a profit. Now, let's break it down again. Basically, entrepreneurship, you get into a place and then you see they need something. After finding that what they need, you tell yourself that I'm going to find a solution to the problem. Then you start a business so that you can satisfy the need. And in that process, remember what is in the process? In that process, you end up making what? A profit. So basically, that is what entrepreneurship is. Guys, I hope you understand. Basically, that is what entrepreneurship is. All right? So the second part of what entrepreneurship is, so it involves coming up with new ideas. Let me just do that for you perfectly. It involves coming up with new ideas. Yes. And that showcases what? It shows you being initiative and innovative. So here we can just say, as an entrepreneur, so firstly, let me erase. So the first part you all got, that the process of identifying a need, right? I just wanna create space for you to see properly. Again, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to your high school friends so that we can all learn together. All right. Thank you. So it involves coming up with new ideas. There's a word that I want to teach you if you don't know it. It's innovation. So innovation simply means that when you are the first person to initiate something, you come up with an idea. So basically, innovation means starting something from scratch. So entrepreneurship involves coming up with new ideas. That's the first part. The second part, taking calculated risks. Now let's focus on the term calculated risks. What does it mean to take a calculated risk? Now, firstly, let's define what a risk is. All right. A risk is something that can potentially harm you as a business or as a person. Again, I repeat, a risk is something that can potentially harm you as a business or as a person. So now when you take calculated risks, it means that you've went above and beyond to see all the possible outcomes, all the possible outcomes within the business that you are trying to start or initiate or innovate. So calculated risk means that you've seen all your strengths. So now I might just add here that you as calculating a risk, you might look at your SWOT analysis. You might look at your SWOT analysis. That's where you define or identify your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Moving along, again, being an entrepreneur is knowing how to organize resources like money, people, materials, and managing the business. Now, what does it mean again? It means that you need to be able to find ways. One, find ways to come up with capital. So basically, this is where you find investors. This is where you find family members. This is where you find basically people who are willing to put money in your business. All right. That's the first one. Organizing resources, organizing resources like money. So you find investors. All right. And then the second one is people. So I'm just going to have to create some space here. Let's create. First one again, it's okay. Sorry for that. Okay. Now we move along. The second one is organizing resources like people. It does not mean that you use or exhaust or manipulate people. It simply means that you can lead a group of people. That's the first one. And then the second one is basically people working under you, as a business person. Remember, entrepreneurship, it means that you are now starting or venturing into becoming a business mogul or a business person. Now, it also involves knowing how to deal with people, knowing how to organize people, knowing how to tell people what to do and when to do it. All right. The third one is organizing resources like materials. Materials. So what does it mean? So for instance, let's say you are starting a bakery. A bakery. That's your business. Number one, you need investments. Investments, that will be your money. Organizing money. Number two, you need your workers, which will be your people. And then the third one, you need machinery. Things that you're going to use to now start baking, things that you're going to use for your business to succeed. That becomes your material. So as an entrepreneur, you need to know how to organize money, people, and materials. But also, because now you have started a business, you also now need to be able to manage it. Now, managing the business now becomes your what? Your goal. Your goal to succession. Managing the business now becomes the goal. The goal to what? To success. If you know how to manage now all these three things. All right. So now that's the first part of what an entrepreneur is. The characteristics, rather the definition of what entrepreneurship means. All right. So let's move on to the next bullet point. So it states that an entrepreneur, again, we're still here. Remember, don't confuse the words. Entrepreneurship is derived from the word entrepreneur, still the same thing. An entrepreneur is the person who takes on this role of what? Of now identifying a need or opportunity, all right? Coming up, initiating to start a business or a project, coming up with new ideas, taking calculated risk, organizing resources like money and people and materials and managing. So now this whole thing, if you now know how to do this, then you then become a what? You then become an entrepreneur. You become an entrepreneur. So by basically knowing how to do all these things, then you become an entrepreneur. So basically, that's how then we will define you as an entrepreneur if you can do all the following or the previous steps that I show you. So an entrepreneur is the person who takes on this role. Number one, as an entrepreneur, you should be creative. It means coming up with new ideas, not just for the first idea, but for every time your business grows, you need to be creative. As I said, innovation. Remember, I was talking about innovation here. New ideas, innovation. You need to be innovative. Always start new things. Always come up with new and brand ways of working or dealing with people or managing a business. All right. So this is the second part. And then the third one is you must be willing to take risks. But what? Calculated risks. All right. So as an entrepreneur, you take this role of becoming and getting new ideas and organizing money and people but now also you need to realize and understand that you need to be creative, innovative, and be willing to take risks. So entrepreneurs contribute to the economy by creating. So now we are looking at it on a broader perspective. On a broader perspective, how does entrepreneurs benefit us as people? So how does entrepreneurs benefit us as people? All right. How does entrepreneurs benefit us as people? How do they benefit us? Okay, let me just erase this. Sorry for that. But we are still on track. Just remember to like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. So now how do they benefit us? Number one, they contribute to the economy. In what way? How do they contribute to the economy? By creating jobs. Remember the people that they manage. These then becomes the workers. These then becomes the jobs that are given to people who were unemployed. And by doing that, as an entrepreneur, you contribute to the economy. Number two, how do they contribute to the economy is that they offer goods and services. They offer goods and services. All right. So let's say, for instance, in that village where we needed water, now we have water to drink. In a place where we needed bread, where, for instance, for you to find a shop that has bread or a market or wherever they sell bread would be far. But now as an entrepreneur, you found that opportunity. You found that need that people want in that environment. So you started a bakery. Now it becomes the goods that you supply to. It now contributes to the economy because now people don't have to use as much money to go to the shops, to go to. Now they are, or they can find rather the shops near. And then lastly, they encourage economic growth. How so? In a sense that if one entrepreneur, so I just want to show you an ideal path of how do they encourage economic growth. If one Sipho, an inventor, starts a business, then Thabo Pule and Lerato are now encouraged to do what? To start a business. So now if you see here, Sipho being the inventor or the entrepreneur uh, he is, he then encouraged these three, Thabo, Pule, and Lerato, to do what? To start businesses and become entrepreneurs. But by doing that, how does that then help grow the economy? Because now these people will do the same thing as Sipho did. What? They will contribute by creating jobs, offering goods and services, and them too might encourage others to start new businesses, which will then default in economic growth. I hope that is understandable. All right. So this is basically the definition of entrepreneurship. So when asked the basic things that you must know, about entrepreneurship is that it's a process. Okay. Let me just rather do this so that you can get the whole sense of it. Is that entrepreneurship is the process of identifying a need or opportunity. Where? In the market. Where's the market? The environment that you live in. And then you take initiative, you innovate, you take initiative to start a business in order to satisfy what? The need, so that you can make a profit. A profit. And then this is the first part. The second part, what does it involves? It involves coming up with new ideas, meaning you need to be innovative. Then, secondly, you take calculated risks. Angithi, you must be willing to take calculated risks as an entrepreneur. Thirdly, organizing. So basically, this means that keeping in order. Organizing resources like money, people, and materials. So all in all, that's how you manage your business. So basically, that's the whole definition of what entrepreneurship is. I hope you didn't fall asleep while listening. I hope you understood everything. All right. Moving along. All right. So let's move on. So now, again, as I said, there are certain things that you need to remember when defining what entrepreneurship is. And remember, an entrepreneur goes into entrepreneurship. So the two words, don't confuse the two words. They are part of one thing. A person is an entrepreneur, so he ventures into entrepreneurship. All right. So when we look here, so the key points to remember when doing what? When defining entrepreneurship, right? One is that entrepreneurship is about starting and running a business. Remember, starting, initiate, running, managing a business. So you come up with a new idea, you initiate the idea, and then you manage, and then you start running the business so that you can manage the business. All right. And then the second one is that it includes taking risks. But remember, these must be calculated risks. You must know when to take risks. And then also making decisions. Decisions for who? Decisions for how. Decision number one, how money is spent. Decision number two, the people that work for you. Decision number three, the resources that you have within the business. So you make decisions about these three things on how to do what, to run and properly manage the business. All right. The third one, it requires innovation. Innovation, starting a new thing. And then you become what? Creative with it. So you don't just start a new thing, you start something that has never been seen before. But within that, make sure that your innovative, creative idea can solve a problem. So make sure that it solves a certain problem within the environment or the community that you live in. The fourth one, entrepreneurs, what do? They like I said, organize resources such as land. For instance, this could be your property where you are situated, right? Where you are situated. It could be your labor. This becomes then your people, the people that works for you, the people that you interact with on a daily basis. And then capital could be capital in terms of finance or capital in terms of resources. I know it's a bit sketchy, Mara. Again, capital can be in terms of capital finance or capital resource. Let me just quickly do this for you so that you can see properly. Okay, we skip that one. In terms of capital resource, capital resource. And then the fifth one is that their goal is usually to make a profit and grow their business like any other business. So what you need to remember is that being an entrepreneur, it means helping people, but at the same time making what? Profit. So you help people, but at the same time you need to make a certain amount of money for yourself. And then the last one is that entrepreneurship plays a vital meaning important. So entrepreneurship, it plays a very important, a very important role in developing the economy. Remember the last part we were talking about what? Economic growth. We were talking about economic growth, how Sipho and Pule and how they can grow the economy as entrepreneurs. So entrepreneurship plays a vital, important role in developing the economy and reducing unemployment by doing what? By hiring people. Remember the labor. Remember the labor. So basically, these are the key points that you need to remember when defining entrepreneurship. I hope that is understandable. I hope you're not sleeping there. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends to tell their friends to tell their friends that Metric Hub is here and it's here to help students. I hope we are clear. And then Uh, okay. Now, move along, as we move along. Now, remember, if we go to the first page, what is the initial thing that we were trying to explain or define? So we are focusing on what? Forms of ownership. So as an entrepreneur, what kind of business you own? And as we go to this page here, you can see that it says that the goal of an entrepreneur is to make profit. You cannot make profit as an NPO or an NGO. You need to be a company, whether private or public. Either way, you need to be a company. So these two are none. This one, especially this one, let's focus on this one, not non-government. So let's focus on an NPO, non-profit organization. So as a non, you cannot remember here, entrepreneur equals what? Profit. And as soon as it says non-profit, it means that you make no money. And what's the goal of an entrepreneur is to make profit, make moolah, money. All right. So you need to understand that you need to understand the type of ownership an entrepreneur, or you as an entrepreneur, what kind of ownership do you or want to venture in? All right. So let's move on again. Explaining the forms of ownership. Explaining the forms of ownership. So the different types, the different types of ownership. So we're going to start here. When an entrepreneur starts a business, remember, from innovation, from being creative, from initiating, from seeing a need and opportunity, they must decide how the business will be owned and run. So they will decide whether or what type of ownership they want, and how will it be run, whether there will be board members, whether there will be a CEO, whether it will be self-run, do you understand? They will decide on the ownership and how it's run. So this decision is called choosing a form of ownership. So what you need to understand is that if you choose a form of ownership, you need to abide by what? The laws and regulations. You need to abide by the laws and regulations of that type of ownership. So you need to remember that whatever form of ownership you choose, it has its own laws and regulations. All right. So how then do you choose? How then do you choose a form of ownership? So forms of ownership refer to different ways in which a business can be legally owned. Remember, I was talking about laws and regulations. So whatever form of ownership that you choose, you need to follow these. So it says forms of ownership refer to the different ways in which a business can be legally owned and operated by following these. So it affects things like, so once you choose a certain ownership, let's say you chose uh ownership one, let's say it's a public company. So now, because of the laws of a public company, you need to make sure that you have the certain amount of number required in a public company. So forms of ownership affects things like number, how many people own the business. So in a public company, maybe 3 to 10 owners. All right, 3 to 10, if I'm not mistaken, but 3 to 10 owners. So it shouldn't exceed. So basically what you need to understand is that following the laws of a public company, you need to have a maximum or a minimum number of members in a business. It shouldn't exceed, it shouldn't decrease. It should be within this. This is what it means, is that if you choose a form of ownership, the number of people should be aligned with what the form of ownership you chose. Number two, who makes the decisions? So now your ownership is a public company, but remember now we have rules and regulations. So ownership is a what? A public company, right? So now we say, okay, there will be 3 to 10 members, all right? For example, and then who makes the decisions? We say SIA. So as we follow these stipulations of our ownership, we need to follow the rules. Nothing should change. So SIA will be our CEO. So he will undertake the what? The decisions. I hope you understand. He will add. So here it's 3 to 10. Here it's here. And it should stay like this because of what? The type of ownership we chose. Number three, how profits are shared. As we send the letter of uh, compliance that states that within our company, this is how letter of compliance, okay. But you do understand it. Letter of compliance, let's just say letter of compliance. Letter of compliance. We say within our company, now we are here, profit sharing. Remember, we're here. How many people own the business? Because of the ownership, what is our ownership? Public company. So there are 3 to 10 members. Now, who makes the decision? We made Sia our CEO. Now, how do we share our profit? Profit would be shared like this. Because we are 7 members, each member will receive 15% of profits. All right? Then the rest is what? The rest we invest. Now, where this is written in our what? Our letter of compliance. We say between these 7 members that we have, each member will receive 15% and then the rest will be invested. So that's how profits are shared. And now you will choose per semester, meaning within 6 months, or per year, or per annum, or per month, depending on what the letter of compliance states. I hope you understand. So how many members, how many people own the business? 3 to 10. Who makes the decisions? Sia is the CEO, and how are profits shared is that each member out of all the 7 will receive 15%. All right. Now, within all those, now we need to find someone who will be reliable for what? Our finances In most cases, that will be our what? Our treasurer. This will be the person who will be responsible for what? The profits, or in most cases, or less cases, our debts. So we will choose a person, our treasurer will focus on either our profits or our debts. So in each department or in each section, you need to make sure that you stipulate properly or accurately on how many people and who makes the decisions, how the profits are shared, and now who is responsible. So in that letter of compliance, everything should be stated properly. All right. And then the last one is that how the business is taxed according to the type of ownership. Remember, guys, firstly, so now we are summarizing everything. Now we are summarizing everything. Firstly, number one, you choose ownership. Number two, within the ownership, now it will tell you how many people you should hire or how many people should own the business. You will decide who will make the decisions for the business. You will decide how the profits are shared. You will decide who is responsible for the debt, maybe your treasurer, right? And then because of the ownership that you chose, then now the government will tax you according to what? According to the type of ownership that you chose. All right, now you need to remember also that it is important because entrepreneurs must choose a form of ownership. All right. Why? So that they can also know how to run the business. All right. It is important because entrepreneurs must choose a form of ownership that suits the size of the business. Now, how big or small your business is, how much control they want. Now, as an entrepreneur, you don't want to give too much control to people. Remember, we were talking about what? Investors. So you need to make sure that you give percentage to them, but always be the majority shareholder. So don't give too much control. Within your investors, you give them a certain percentage, but always be the majority shareholder, meaning have more percentage than your what? Than your investors, which will do what? It will give you control. Always have control. All right. And then how much money they need to start the business. And then lastly, how much risk they are willing to take. So again, as an entrepreneur and choosing a form of ownership, you must be able to know the size. And it comes from knowing your market. How many people would want your product? Number two, within your business, don't give too much control. Within the business, don't give too much control. All right? This is very important because at the end of the day, they might vote you out. This is very, very important. Don't give too much control. All right? Moving along, as we move along, how much money is needed? So let's say you are studying bakery for 10,000 people and your is budget is 2 million. So basically that will be the amount of money you will need to start your what? Your bakery. Not more, not more, not less. All right? Not more, not less. Focus on the amount of money that you need. Not more or less. Not more or less. Yeah, I know it's a bit sloppy as I say, it's not more or less. Not more or less. Mm. Don't look at it as a four. It's not more or not less. All right? And then moving along, how much risk they're willing to take. So, for instance, if starting a bakery for 10,000 people require 2 million. But now, if these people are willing to buy, or if there are four other what bakeries, that would be a very uncalculated risk. Because now, if you see, are you willing to take the risk of starting a bakery where there are only 10,000 people with four other bakeries within the area? So you become the fifth competitor. So it's not viable. It's not a very lucrative idea. So it's not smart for you to take that risk of what? Of starting a bakery when there are four other bakeries within the area. So how much risk are you willing to take to start this bakery? I hope you understand. So number one, you must know the size of your business. Number two, have control of your business. Number three, the amount of money you need to start your business. Number four, how much risk are you willing to take for your business? All right. So those are, and remember these ones based on the type or the form of ownership that you choose. All right. Moving along. So now these are the types of ownership. So as they put it here, these are the main. So these are the not the only one, but these are the ones that you will be focusing on. The focus is on these six. Guys, remember to like, share, and what? Subscribe. Don't forget to tell your friends and families. Ne? Okay. So as we move along, we will be focusing now on the main forms of ownership, the main forms. These are not the only ones, but as a grade 8 learner, these will be the ones that you'll be focusing on. All right. So number one is what? Number one is a sole proprietor. So sole proprietorship, it's what? It's owned by one person. So if you're an entrepreneur, you're the only one. If you're an entrepreneur and you own a sole proprietor, you're the only one. And then we move to a partnership. If you know the definition of what a partnership is, two or more people coming together to do a certain type of work, right? It's not one, it's two or more. So it's owned by two or more people who share the responsibilities. So here, maybe your business will be small. So you don't need to share the responsibilities as a sole proprietor. So you'll decide to just run the business alone. But as you grow, as your business grows bigger, You decide to find people to help you. Now, what you do, you share the load. You share the load. Now you find it more difficult to do the work by yourself. All right. And then the third one, it's a private company. And remember the PTY Limited. Remember the PTY Limited. As I said, remember the PTY Limited, which is an abbreviation, meaning that it's abbreviated. So this is limited, and this is proprietary. The PTY stands for proprietary. All right. Which means that a company or a business might have limited liability, private ownership, or separate, but you should always, as a private company, always remember to put these abbreviations at the end of your business. If you own a private company, maybe let's say you owned a bakery, so it will go like bakery one PTY Ltd. This shows that your company is a private company. So remember the PTY stands for proprietary. All right. Proprietary. And then as we move along, a company, it's just limited, meaning that there can be or other members more than. It's not private, it's public, and it can be listed. But that is something that you learn as you go further in your grades. Mara, it's a listed company. So it's owned by many shareholders and shares are sold to the public. As I say, it's listed, meaning that it appears on the JSE, Johannesburg Stock Exchange. As I say, as you grow older in your grades and you basically succeed, you then learn more about what a public company is and what it does for the public. All right. And then we go to the closed corporation, a business. So remember, these are the types or the forms of ownership that you can choose from as a what? As an entrepreneur. All right. So a closed corporation, it's a small business owned by members. No longer new ones being registered in it, but still exist. So what it means is that the government in South Africa doesn't allow a closed corporation anymore, but there are still the ones that exist. But yeah, basically it's a small business owned by members, not partners or not CEOs, by members. So each person within the business is a member. All right. And then the last one is a cooperative, which is owned and run by a group of people for their mutual benefit. The difference between a member and a group of people is that these ones are associated with or affiliated with a certain uh, mm, group. All right. Let's say members of the CRA, right? The Christian Revival Attorneys. So these are the members of a certain type of group. And this one, it's just that a group of people coming together to form a cooperative. Why? Because they have a mutual benefit, meaning that they want to at least make profit from that organization and they don't want to be titled as a group of members like the CRA. So what they do is that they come together and they form a what? A cooperative. So basically, these are the main forms of ownership that an entrepreneur or entrepreneurs or rather businessmen can choose from. All right. So I hope you understand. Number one is a sole proprietorship, and then you might enter into a partnership if you want to share the load, and then a private company which is owned by shareholders, meaning like more rather investors. So let's say 4 to 10 investors will come together and they will put money and they'll choose people to run the business. And then you have a public company, which is a company that is rather listed on the JSE, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and it has many shareholders. Why? Because it's listed. Anybody can buy shares. You can be a shareholder, even as an individual of South Africa, not necessarily owning or being an entrepreneur. You can own a certain chunk of shares in a public company. And then a closed corporation, again, it's a business or a small business owned by a small group of people. Remember, the CRA, Christian Revival Attorneys. So these are the people that just decided to come together to start a small business. And then lastly, we have a corporative, whereby a group of people, not necessarily members, not necessarily part of any type of group, but they rather come together because of a mutual or the same benefit. Mutual meaning the same benefit. And guys, that will be the last of our class for today. This will be part one of forms of ownership. Thank you for subscribing and watching Metric Hub. It has been a delight to communicate and teach you and give you a sense of knowledge on the forms of ownership. And again, don't forget to like, share, and what? Subscribe. Thank you so much. Goodbye.